الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا وإمامنا وحبيبنا. You can send it to me later inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا وإمامنا وحبيبنا أبي القاسم محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. I praise Allah Almighty and I send praise and blessings upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his noble family, righteous companions, and all those that follow them with right guidance until the day of judgment. Ameen. Glory be to you, O Allah. No knowledge have we except that which you have taught us. You indeed are the all-knowing, the all-wise. My brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A very hearty welcome to you again. Nice to see you as always in another talk concerning a Tafseer al-Mawdui. And as I briefed you before the beginning, just to get mentally prepared and to make use of the time, that we will be speaking inshallah today about al-Akhlak fil Quran. And how do we translate akhlaq exactly to English? Morals. Character. What else? Ethics. What else? Behavior. Okay. What else? Any other words? Synonyms? Are they all synonymous? Are there differences? Maybe. Akhlaq is a huge issue. And even though at times it may be looked at as something self-evident, should be fairly obvious, akhlaq should be a corollary to piety and religiosity. If you are religious, if you are accurately characterized as pious, naturally the consequence should be good akhlaq, right? Is that always the case? Unfortunately not. Therefore, it's not as obvious as we'd like. And honestly, anyone who has heard any of my khutbahs in the last few years will notice that most of the time I am emphasizing now the topic of akhlaq. For several reasons. Can you mention some? Why should akhlaq be so important now?
Portrays the religion.
What's that?
It portrays the religion that you embrace.
So it plays an important role in da'wah, you mean? That's what you mean. Okay, very good. What else?
Code of conduct. The code of conduct.
Conduct. So what about conduct? What I'm trying to say is, it seems to be gaining much more emphasis, and it should be gaining much more emphasis now. I always tell the audiences that I'm speaking to, if you were to do a poll, ummah-wide, across the whole ummah, and ask them, what do you think speakers and khutaba should be focusing or concentrating on? I think a lot of them would probably choose this topic. Do you feel something else, maybe of higher priority? What does the ummah need and require now? If you have a different opinion, please. By all means, tell us. Maybe you don't feel akhlaq is the number one priority that we should be concentrating on now.
Maybe knowledge.
Knowledge, seeking and gaining knowledge. Okay. Any other opinions?
Being a good Muslim, I have to show my akhlaq first to show, if I have a good akhlaq, then people can see that I'm a good Muslim.
So akhlaq in itself, good behavior, manners, morals, in itself is da'wah, right? And this is why we hear a lot of times nowadays from practicing Muslims and not so practicing Muslims, good akhlaq in itself is da'wah. Even before you start to utter anything or say anything, right? Any other opinions? You're totally free. I'd like to hear if you feel something else. Maybe you're listening to the khutbah and you're thinking, this khatib is always talking about akhlaq. Why doesn't he talk about something else? Higher? Okay. Yes, brothers and sisters, anything else? Before I go to the next step, speak now or forever hold your peace. Anything else the ummah needs to focus on now? The reason I said what I said, I'm gonna move, brother, if you allow me. Several reasons. Where's the pen? Shall I write with my fingers? Any pen? Yes, barakallah feek. Number one, because moral character, ethics, manners, akhlaq is really ultimately sublime in Islam. So before talking about anything else, anything in our surroundings or our environment, if you are just one Muslim and you're trying to reach the level of akhlaq that our Islam requires, it's most sublime. It's on a very high level. That in itself requires so much effort. That in itself, imagine the ummah is in a good state in terms of akhlaq, still to get where we need to be Islamically takes a lot of effort. This is reason number one. Reason number two, the disconnect, which is glaringly obvious to all that know the situation of the ummah. A glaring disconnect between piety / taqwa, religiosity, and akhlaq. A saddening disconnect between the two. A bizarre and puzzling disconnect between the two, when they should be going hand in hand. But clearly there's a problem. And Muslims realize it before others. Why is it so? It's very interesting that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in a hadith, whose authenticity may be debated, but it's very popular, and I'm sure you know it. When the Prophet ﷺ said, if someone comes to you asking for your daughter's hand in marriage, if someone comes to you asking for your daughter's hand in marriage, whose deen and akhlaq you are satisfied with, then go ahead and marry them, right? Deenahu wa khuluqah. But aren't they one and the same? How can they be disconnected? How can you be pious and not have good akhlaq? How can you have good akhlaq but not be pious? But the Prophet ﷺ clearly mentioned both. إذا جاءكم من ترضون دينه وخلقه فزوجوه. Deen wal khuluq. But they should be one and the same. Well, clearly, in the history of the Ummah, there were times when they were one and the same, and there are times when they are not. And we seem to be living in a time where they seem to be quite divergent. It's very normal to see nowadays someone apparently on the outside, a religious person, doing what is required of them in terms of ibadah, in terms of worship and so on, doing what is required, avoiding the prohibition and so on. But when it comes to akhlaq, we are not satisfied with that person's akhlaq. Don't we see this? It's very clear, right? I don't think it's in fact it's become so salient that something needs to be done about it. So this disconnect, and this is one of the reasons that I'm emphasizing that in the khutbahs. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned it in some of the ahadith, okay? This disconnect. But that's a different topic, a vibrant one, but this is not what I want to concentrate on now. Number 3, I just want to introduce the topic so we can dive into the deep end of the Quran. Number 3, exacerbating the disconnect is a perception and possibly a reality to some where the non-Muslims are exhibiting better akhlaq and character and behavior than the Muslims. I don't know what you want to call that. Everyone on the same page? It appears in some instances, places, countries, situations, we're finding that sometimes the non-Muslims are exhibiting better akhlaq. That exacerbates the problem of the disconnect. If the disconnect is already there in the ummah, and then the others are exhibiting better character, it's like, hello, where did we go wrong? What are we doing wrong? Right? So, again, it's connected, right? Okay? So for all of these reasons, it's a big issue that we need to focus on. And the Prophet ﷺ said that he was sent for the purpose of perfecting akhlaq. Makarim al-akhlaq, the best of akhlaq. The best and the most noble of akhlaq. Okay? Does that mean that akhlaq is the ultimate aim of the deen? Yes or no?
Yes.
The ultimate aim. Trick question? After all this introduction, it must be, right? The ultimate aim, the penultimate, the absolute. So what if someone says, okay, great. If that's the ultimate aim of the deen, I'm an atheist. But I have better akhlaq than all of you. Your response?
So you believe in God.
So what? You said the ultimate aim is akhlaq. Oops.
Akhlaq with the Creator. What is that?
Are we talking about akhlaq with the Creator or akhlaq with the creation or?
Creator right. We admit Creator right.
Okay. Is it?
It's
we talk about حقوق الرب وحقوق العباد, right? We usually separate. So actually the ultimate aim of the deen is to know Allah. This is number one. Because you can have all the akhlaq in the dunya. You can have the best character ever. But if you, to borrow your term, have bad character with your Lord, right? That's why in the, I usually talk about it and explain it in terms of the two extremes. And we see those two extremes. We have iman without akhlaq. And we have akhlaq without iman. And both are bad. Both are unacceptable. Alright? But to go into that in more detail, that's another talk. So the ultimate aim is knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why, even though they might be apparently pious and religious, and they obviously have bad character, but in the end they will be of the people of Jannah, right? Though, if they have wronged others, they're going to be punished for that, right? So it is one of the highest objectives and aims of the deen, but not the ultimate, meaning the only one. Because as we said, otherwise, there are people who claim not to have anything to do with God or religion, and they have apparently good akhlaq, at least with people, like you said. And this is actually a very important response and refutation of those who claim that therefore just be a good person. You hear it from Muslims, for God's sake, before non-Muslims, right? A Muslim will tell you, I don't care if he prays or he puts hijab or she puts hijab, who cares? If they're a good person, that's all that matters. Isn't that what we hear, brothers and sisters? Right? I think that's enough of an introduction before we actually jump into the topic. So, do we find akhlaq in the Quran? We do? Where? Where do we find akhlaq in the Quran? Is the Quran here to tell us about akhlaq?
Yes, in many verses.
Many verses.
Yeah.
Where?
Like in Surah Al-Luqman.
Okay.
Allah says, وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا.
Uh-huh.
So Allah reads.
وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا. Very nice. Can I erase this? Can you give the verse number? So, what are we going to characterize that as, brother? Under what? Under what khuluq or what thing we should avoid? What is that guiding us to? وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا. What's that? Arrogance. Aha. So it is prohibiting arrogance, right? إِنَّكَ لَن تَخْرِقَ الْأَرْضِ. Okay, excellent. So under arrogance, we'll put, so obviously this is sometimes akhlaq that Allah Azza wa Jal commands, and sometimes vices that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is prohibiting from. In this case, arrogance. Don't be arrogant. Don't walk haughtily in the earth. إِنَّكَ لَن تَخْرِقَ الْأَرْضِ وَلَن تَبْلُغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا. So, Luqman? 18. All right. Very good.
So it continued, it says, وَقْصِدْ فِي مَشْيِكَ وَغْضُضْ مِنْ صَوْتِكَ.
Okay, barakallah feek. وَقْصِدْ فِي مَشْيِكَ وَغْضُضْ مِنْ صَوْتِكَ. Under arrogance as well? Or the opposite? So a lot of the akhlaq is either Allah commanding some virtue or prohibiting some vice. So here, the next verse is commanding. Commanding what?
Speech.
What's that?
Speaking.
Speak? So he's telling us to speak?
No, I mean when the mode of speaking, the attitude of speaking.
Being what?
Sorry.
Being what?
Being modest.
What am I going to call it? Thank you. Modesty. So on the other side of arrogance, we have modesty. Very good. So the next verse, Luqman 19. Is this okay if I put it like this, or should I write it out in Arabic? It's okay like this? Easier? Better? Excellent. What else? Modesty, tawadu' for Arabic speakers. Yes, brothers and sisters. You can, it doesn't have to be under these categories. You can find something else and then we'll add the categories. What else? Excellent. But this surah, technically, so the brother quoted an ayah from a surah whose whole objective, for those who know it, is akhlaq, right? Surah Al-Hujurat. Which ayah did you quote? La yaskhar qawm. What do we categorize that under? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is prohibiting the vice of discrimination, mocking others, right? Excellent. طيب. So maybe we'll try to put the vices on this side and the virtues on the other. So let's call it mocking, discrimination. Yes, brother, the verse number? What is it? 11. Al-Hujurat 11. But as I said, technically, this whole surah, one verse after another, is mentioning akhlaq, right? But we'll try to categorize them. What else? Is there a verse that praises the akhlaq of someone in specific?
Yeah.
Yes?
Surah Al-Najm.
Al-Najm. Okay.
Allah talks about praising the Prophet sallallahu
Okay.
saying وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ
وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ.
إِنَّكَ لَعَلَىٰ خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ.
Oh, different surah. Which one? Give it to me.
إِنَّكَ لَعَلَىٰ خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ.
Surah Noon, Al-Qalam.
No, this will
Where are we going to put it under? Okay, we'll just put it up here. Al-Qalam, right? Because this is the ultimate, the foundation, right? The best of character. The most refined human being that ever walked the earth. And thus he is the seal of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. 5, is it? 4? 4. So verse 4. The sublime character of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay? So, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. One expression of certainty after another. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. And yet, at times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was even encouraging the Prophet ﷺ to more. Because he is the best. Right? See, As one wise man once said, on my white thawb, you can see this small spot. I forgot where it is, right here, right? But if you ask the brother wearing the black shirt, you'll never be able to see it. But with the character of the Prophet ﷺ being so sublime, you can see the slightest dot, as opposed to you and me, right? We have huge dots everywhere. The point is clear, right? What else? Akhlaq in the Quran. Where is it? In this verse he mentions specifically خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. He is the best of akhlaq, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Yes, brothers and sisters. Is that all? It's not a lot. There's more.
I mean, in Surah
We'll get back to Hujurat. We said Hujurat is all akhlaq. We can take it from the beginning to the end. But rather, let's try to categorize it, because this is the idea of Tafseer Mawdui. Otherwise, if we do the normal tafsir, we'll take Surah Al-Hujurat from the beginning to end, verse by verse. But now we're doing it by topic, by theme, right? So you would have to get the rest of the verses and give me the category. What else? How?
in Surah Al-Isra.
Just a minute. How? Okay. This seems to be Aqidah more, right? This is the ultimate in Aqidah, right? Yes, brother. Isra?
Yeah.
What about Isra?
Allah says, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا.
وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Good treatment of parents. Very nice.
What it says, وَلَا
That might also be under a different subcategory. That can be under the category of family relations, about which the Quran speaks much, right? In some of these, they're individual topics, individual akhlaq, vices or virtues that each person is supposed to try to observe. Okay, very good. So, being dutiful to one's parents, we can call it bir. Some of these terms, brothers and sisters, use the Arabic. You will not find a proper English translation for bir, I guarantee it. So it's good to use those terms. I like how in Malay, you know how excellent my Malay is. Some of these terms they keep, they keep the terminology. Sometimes it's better untranslated, right? Bir is one of those words. Duty to parents, that hardly translates bir. But for all practical purposes, we'll call it bir, duty towards parents. That ayah is Isra 23. Very nice. And the Quran is replete with the command to be dutiful to one's parents. And very interestingly, always juxtaposed with what? Worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be dutiful to Allah. Next in line, next in priority, your parents, subhanallah. وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. What else? Okay, mashallah. Again, this is what? Relationship between husband and wife. Another subcategory under which we can collect all of the verses in the Quran that talk about the relationship between husband and wife. So if we were to put that as a category, what would we call it? Because technically, here it's between husband and wife, but more generally, it's referring to a virtue, and that virtue is what? What virtue is that ayah? Can you read it for us in English, brother?
Ayat.
Yeah?
Surah Al-Baqarah,
Al-Baqarah
237.
237. Read it, brother. Yes, please.
237.
Yeah.
And if you divorce them before you have touched them, you have pointed unto them the mahar. Then pay half of that, unless they agree to forego it. Or he, the husband, in whose hand is the marriage tie, agrees to forego and give her full appointed mahar. And to forego and give is nearer to at-taqwa.
So it's actually talking about al-afu. وَأَن تَعْفُوا أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى. Afu, pardoning. One of the foundations of akhlaq, to be able to pardon and forgive. And overlook, for that matter. So let's call it pardoning, forgiving, and you may add overlooking. Do we find overlooking in the Quran? Everyone knows where I'm going with this one? Overlooking? Overlook. Just, don't pick on everything. Don't be so, just let it go. Overlook. Do we find that anywhere in the Quran? Maybe in the character of the best of humanity, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Look for that. It's beautiful. Look for it. So pardoning and forgiving, and this verse specifically in the context of marriage. But there are so many others that are general, such as, where else do we find afu? All over. As you can see, today we're talking about akhlaq in general. We can easily take one of these, especially that is mentioned a lot in the Quran, and then go after all of the verses that mention that and study them. Right? But here we're doing it in general, and then we can go to the more specific. So here, pardoning and forgiving. Any other general verses concerning pardoning and forgiving? I'm getting responses from a select few. And I know all of you have, mashallah, knowledge and depth. So please don't deprive us of your wisdom. Where else do we find pardoning and forgiving? All over the Quran, right? Yes, brothers and sisters. Okay, فَأَعْرِضْ عَنْهُمْ. Just leave them, alright. What else? Okay, mashallah. Can we put that under one of these categories?
Like overlooking.
Aha. So, overlooking or ignoring, right? Kind of ignoring. Turn away. Just say peace. If the ignorant come to you and try to talk to you or maybe put you down or whatever it is, salama, peace. I have no time to waste with you, right? Okay. So you want to put that under overlooking. I'm referring to another one, which is very important. And that's also in the context of marriage. So that's another hint. But let's put it. But at the same time, brother, there's the verse before that. Those verses are also talking about akhlaq, right? So that is Furqan 63. Okay. This is in the context of ignoring the ignorant, right? What about وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ? Where it all starts. الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا. Modesty, right? So Furqan 62? No, 61. 61, right? وعباد الرحمن الذين يمشون على الأرض هونا وإذا خاطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلاما. No, 63. Right?
Still under pardon and forgiving?
Yeah, if you have one, give it to me. Anything you want to put. Or even if you have an ayah and you want to introduce a new category, that's fine. It is 63, right, Muhammad? Yeah. Oh, big one. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. But that's part of an ayah, is it not? Can you read it? Okay. Beautiful. Where do we put that? What's the category? This is a new category, is it not? Part of it is عَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, right? Yes. Very nice. So this is Ali Imran. What's the verse?
134.
What is it? 134. And it can also go under a new category. Kadhm al-ghayz. Very important. Controlling one's anger. Yes. Right? You know what's superbly interesting about this ayah? Read the one before. وسارعوا أرضها السماوات والأرض وعدت للمتقين. Then الذين ينفقون. Right? Can you if you guys have your phones and the Qur'ans, go there and tell me what is so interesting about it. Yes, brothers and sisters? What's so interesting about this? Why are we stopping on this ayah? Yeah, 133, 134.
Just use the batteries.
What's that?
Use the batteries.
Oh yeah, sure. This one. Yes. Oh, hasten to the forgiveness of your Lord and a paradise, the width of is the heavens and the earth, prepared for the pious, right? Who spend
prosperity.
Okay, very nice. Alright. Just recharging. I wish they can recharge me as well. I need some recharging. طيب. والله يحب المحسنين والذين إذا فعلوا فاحشة. Translate.
Those who spends, what do you call it?
The one after.
And those who, when they have committed fahisha
Immorality.
or wrong themselves with evil,
They do what?
they remember Allah. and
Allahu Akbar.
their sins.
Remember what I told you in the beginning of the talk? We were talking about the disconnect. We were talking about Iman without akhlaq, akhlaq without Iman. I'm trying to bring it closer. So what do you notice in these verses?
They have the iman without akhlaq, and if they were to realize that it has forgiveness, is that way in which
What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasten humanity to? وَسَارِعُوا, hasten to the forgiveness of your Lord. Paradise. وَعِدَّتْ لِي الْمُتَّقِينَ, prepared for the pious. You would think the first thing He's going to mention, you talked about relationship with Allah and relationship with people. You would think the first thing He's going to mention after piety is Allah. Relationship with Allah. The verse after, those who avoid immorality and they remember, right? And they seek forgiveness from Allah immediately. So what you notice is, he started with the verse about akhlaq, with the verse about spending in charity, helping the poor and the needy, repressing one's anger, pardoning others. Then he came to the relationship between the human being and their Lord. Superb. So if you thought piety only related to your relationship with Allah, think again. أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. Then he mentioned in the next verse, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً. He mentioned those akhlaq first. For those who tell you, don't worry about character. Most important thing, do your prayers in the masjid. Okay? Your relationship with Allah, pray qiyamul layl, have a long beard, shorten your thawb. That's all that's important. And then you see this ayah. المتقين الذين ينفقون في السراء والضراء والكاظمين الغيظ والعافين عن الناس والله يحب المحسنين والذين إذا فعلوا فاحشة. So, if it was you and me, in our understanding, we might have put the other verse first. والذين إذا فعلوا فاحشة. First, relationship with Allah, then the relationship with others, the akhlaq. This is proving the point that we were talking about before. That this is part and parcel of one's religiosity and piety, to have good character. Clear? So, وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Excellent. What else? Okay. Cooperation for the sake of good. Very nice. Al-Ma'idah 2. Let's call it cooperation. Okay. For good. And obviously against evil. Right? Al-Ma'idah 2. Okay. I think we are ready to start erasing. So we can add some more. Yes? You guys have all of this? There's an ayah that the Prophet ﷺ said, sorry, not the Prophet ﷺ, one of the Sahaba, said it is the most comprehensive ayah in terms of what it commands and prohibits. I gave you a hint, indirectly. Aha, mashallah. MashaAllah. Yes, brother? An-Nahl? 90. Excellent. Read it for us. Translation, please.
My English.
Gotta work on the English, brother.
90.
Anybody have it? Got it? Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anh said, Ajma' ayah. This ayah is the most comprehensive in this context of what it commands and prohibits. Yes.
Verily Allah enjoins al-adl.
Inna Allah ya'muru bil adl. Allah enjoins justice. Yes, continue.
And al-ihsan.
Al-ihsan being, what's ihsan?
Elevation in performing your duties to Allah.
What's ihsan?
For Allah's sake.
Can you find a one-word translation in English for ihsan? The Prophet ﷺ, how did he describe ihsan? أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم يكن يراك فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. So in which hadith is this, brother? Jibreel. When Jibreel alayhi salam comes to the Prophet ﷺ and he asks him, what is Iman? What is Islam? And finally, what is ihsan? And the Prophet ﷺ says, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if you see Him. For if you cannot see Him, He sees you. And we know al-ihsan in this context is doing good to all. Al-ihsan. Al-ihsan even to your dhabiha. How can you be good to your dhabiha? Not kill it? Sharpen the knife. This is ihsan, the Prophet ﷺ said. Because you're doing what? You're being merciful. Right? You're reducing its pain. Right? This is ihsan. Doing good to all. So Allah ordered al-adl, justice, ihsan, wa ita'i, ita'i dhil qurba, being
Good with the relative.
Giving and helping your relatives. Then
Forbids al-fahsha.
وَيَنْهَى. So he commanded those three. Then he prohibits al-fahsha, being, does it mention?
Evil deeds, illegal sexual acts.
Okay.
disobedience of
Evil
parents,
deeds, immorality.
Politism,
Okay.
tell lies,
Al-fahsha.
to give false witness.
All immorality. Al-fahsha. Then
Al-munkar.
wal-munkar. Wal-baghi. Anybody have another translation? Yes, brothers? Which one are you using, brother?
Muslim family and Tafseer.
Okay, tayyib. So in this this is a different one. Here they say, forbids immorality and bad conduct and oppression. He admonishes you that perhaps you will be reminded. He forbids all immorality with regards to immoral acts things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. And He forbids bad conduct. Any bad conduct. That includes lying, that includes cheating, that includes all bad conduct, all bad akhlaq. And oppression, wal-baghi. Oppression of anyone. Doing injustice to anyone is prohibited in Islam. He admonishes you that perhaps you will be reminded. Comprehensive. And that's why you'll hear it a lot of times by the khatib in the khutbah. Because it's comprehensive. And by the way, this is how the khutab of the Prophet ﷺ and some of the Sahaba were. They didn't need such specific khutbahs and talks where you would take one issue and describe it from A to Z. They don't need all of that. They know a lot of it already. They just need a small reminder. And that's why the khutbahs were short and fairly general. So the khutbah, the khatib would command everything good and prohibit everything evil. And sometimes, to us, at least in this age, we would feel that those things seem to be unrelated. Bir of parents, being good to the children, being good to the orphans, just, it could be all together. Not cheating, not lying, just all in general. This ayah is like that. It's comprehensive. The du'as of the Prophet ﷺ, comprehensive. Do you hear the du'as of the Prophet ﷺ usually going into explicit detail about things? That's what happened later on. The books of dua that sometimes we read, all of, very detailed. The dua of the Prophet ﷺ was something along the lines of رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ اللهم أني أسألك الخير كله الله أكبر عاجله وآجله ما علمت منه وما لم أعلم وأعوذ بك من الشر كله عاجله وآجله ما علمت منه وما لم أعلم. Finished. Technically, you don't need any other dua after this. So imagine after this dua you're saying, oh Allah, grant me a Lamborghini or a Porsche or something else. You just asked for all good. Al-khayr kullahu ajilahu wa ajilahu. In other words, that which would be hastened to you or that which would be postponed. That of which you know and that of which you don't. So what's left? Nothing is left. And then you did the same when you sought refuge in all evil. That which you know, that which you don't know. That which is hastened and that which is postponed. Nothing is left. That's how the du'as of the Prophet ﷺ were. It's about being comprehensive. So, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ. And this ayah, interestingly, has an interesting reason of revelation, an occasion of revelation, though the authenticity of the hadith may be in question. According to Ibn Kathir, the chain of narration is sound. طيب. What else? What else? MashaAllah, Brother Mohammad, you are probably the number one student today. So let's hear from somebody else. MashaAllah. An-Nur, 12. So here, what are we going to put this as? We're going to put this as one of the most comprehensive ayahs, so we can talk about all virtues and vices. Yes, Prof. An-Nur, 12? What is it?
Can I read the translation?
Yes, please.
Why, when you heard it, you did not
Did not the believing man and believing woman think good of one another and say this is obvious falsehood?
Okay, mashallah. So this ayah is in the context of,
Thinking good of others.
okay, do we know the context of that verse? The context. What's the overriding big picture? What's the scheme here?
Slander.
Of
Slander. Slander of
The mu'min.
moving.
of go a little bit before that. Indeed, if you go to 11, the verse before it,
You are asking what is it? Why is it this surah is being mentioned?
these verses concerning what? Is there a reason? Yes, exactly. Slander of Sayyidah Aisha. Not any person. Slander of the best of the, one of the best of the women that ever walked the earth. Aisha radiallahu anha. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ جَاءُوا بِالْإِفْكِ حَادِثَةِ الْإِفْكِ. Right? So, here, the Prophet mentioned the ayah, لَوْلَا إِذْ سَمِعْتُمُوا ظَنَّ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بِأَنفُسِهِمْ خَيْرًا. Why, when you heard it, did not the believing men and believing women think good of themselves and say this is an obvious falsehood? So, what do we characterize that as, Prof? Very easy. At least for an Arab, you should have the answer immediately in your mind. There's a term. You know it. Great. He doesn't want to talk. He wants to give chance to others, mashallah. So what does it mention? The ayah mentions dhann. ظَنَّ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بِأَنفُسِهِمْ خَيْرًا. So this is what we call, yes, brothers and sisters? Husn al-dhann. Thinking good of others. Having good estimation. Husn al-dhann. Whenever, someone says something about you, you tell them, brother, have some husn al-dhann. You frequently hear, give your brother 70 excuses. And it's usually mentioned as a hadith, but it's not a hadith. Right? So, if something happens, immediately we start assuming ill of our brethren. But we should try to give them excuses, right? Umar radiallahu anh said something along the lines of, if you can find anything to excuse them, do so. So in other words, as long as you can find a possibility, someone comes and tells you, oh, look at what so-and-so did. And you can find a possible excuse for them, give it to them. This is husn al-dhann. Having good estimation of others, right? Yeah. It applies to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So husn al-dhann, right? Thinking well of others. Good estimation. Very nice. So we see Surah An-Nur is also mentioning this. Can we possibly correlate between Akhlak and the concept of Makki Quran or Madani? Maybe. Can we correlate between the preponderance of verses mentioning akhlaq, commanding virtues and prohibiting vices in terms of conduct? Can we correlate that with that which is Mecca, that which was revealed in Mecca, as opposed to that which was revealed in Medina? We can? How?
During the happenings, whatever happens during that time,
Okay.
so Allah bring down the verse.
All right. So how would we correlate that? Yes, sister? Oh, I thought you had your hand up. No, that's fine. Go ahead. Don't be shy. Is it possible to correlate? Let's put it this way. This most comprehensive ayah, Makki or Madani? Makki. So if we were to try to say, yes, there are a lot of Madani verses that do mention the Akhlaq, because a lot of the Madani verses are addressing whom? The believers. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. So you will find that. But at the same time, the most comprehensive one was revealed in Mecca. It's a Meccan verse. So as not to say that akhlaq was somehow required later on. If someone were to say, well, the akhlaq came later in Medina. We are talking about aqidah in Mecca. No, right there. This is Meccan. An-Nahl. From there itself, Allah is saying, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ وَإِيتَاءِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ وَالْبَغْيِ. What we can correlate, and is a fact, is that the do's and don'ts, al-ahkam al-fiqhiyya, yes, those were postponed to al-Madinah. There was more of a concentration on the individual, their aqidah, their akhlaq. Later on, the fiqh, the do's and the don'ts, those come in Medina. Prohibition of alcohol, the prayer, other things like that, that came in Medina. And we know the famous saying of Aisha radiallahu anha when she said, out of the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, had those do's and don'ts come in Mecca, don't drink, don't fornicate, and the people themselves have not been taught and disciplined yet, they wouldn't have been able to obey. They were first disciplined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then they were ready to follow the do's and the don'ts. Clear? Shall we stop here? Plenty of other verses, of course. Aren't there verses that prohibit lying? That command honesty? Verses that prohibit cheating? Verses that command, or rather prohibit, betrayal? Verses that command being true to one's oaths and promises? Right? All of this. Commitments. Did you find the overlooking one? Our best Sheikh, student, scholar. Do you want that one? Do you want to know that one? Again, you are thinking in the context of the ignorant. And I told you it's in the context of marriage.
Ayah 14. Verily among your wives and your children, they are enemies of you for you.
Excellent. That is referring to pardoning and forgiving. وَإِن تَعْفُوا وَتَصْفَحُوا وَتَغْفِرُوا.
Therefore beware.
Very nice. And the whole reason of revelation for this ayah is another talk. But indeed, if you forgive and pardon and overlook, right? Excellent. But I'm not talking about that ayah either. But that's great. So let's add it here.
Taghabun 14.
Taghabun 14. All right. But it's very close. It's sister surah. Surah Al-Tahrim. Someone read for us, or I can read. Verse 3, Surah Al-Tahrim, chapter, the number 66. The famous story of the Prophet ﷺ when he made his wives prohibited upon himself. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reproves him and tells him, O Prophet, why do you prohibit yourself from what Allah has made lawful for you, seeking the approval of your wives? And Allah is forgiving and merciful. Then you jump to verse 3 and remember when the Prophet confided to one of his wives a statement, and when she informed another of it, and Allah showed it to him, he made known part of it and ignored the other part. عرف بعضه وأعرض عن بعض. This is where the scholars and some of the Sahaba said that الكريم لا يستوفي حقه. لا يستوفي حقه. You wronged me somehow, I'm not going to hold you responsible for everything. I'm going to ignore a part. So he mentioned part and he left the other part out. This was the character of the Prophet ﷺ. Otherwise, he could have held them responsible for what they did completely, but he didn't. This was his character. So he overlooked a part. So this is Tahrim 3. Okay. Tahrim 3. Anything else you want to add before we conclude? A pressing verse that you want to mention? Brothers and sisters, yes, sister, go ahead.
Something related with Surah Al-Imran, last verse 199.
Okay.
Before you die, you have to become a very good person.
Okay. كل نفس ذائقة الموت. آل عمران, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
99.
إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآية لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا. So here, these are beautiful verses, of course, and this is mentioning the importance of tadabbur, deliberation and pondering over the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, maybe no other verse refers to this concept like this one. Okay? الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. So this is in reference to the Muslim and the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Al-Hujurat, surah that is all talking about akhlaq. From the beginning, it starts by telling the believers to be respectful of the Prophet ﷺ, not raise their voice above his, right? Lower their voices when in front of him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If there comes to you a disobedient person with information, إِذَا إِنْ جَاءَكُمْ فَاسِقٌ بِنَبَأٍ فَتَبَيَّنُوا, one of those very specific morals that is largely missing. Be careful. Don't just pass judgment quickly. Confirm that what you're getting is correct. We need this nowadays. Because nowadays, you hear anything, anywhere and everywhere. Is it correct? Is it authentic? Is it this? Is it that? Oh, you heard Sheikh and this Sheikh and so and so. Forget him, I'm not listening to him anymore. Why? He said this and this. Where? Somebody told me. Okay, how did he know? Somebody told him. Allahu Akbar. Give me proof. Where did he say it? Did you hear it from him? Was it in an article? Yes, the articles are authentic sometimes, and sometimes only this much is authentic. I remember giving a talk, not in Malaysia, and then they wrote an article in the newspaper, and Sheikh Mohammad Qutb said this and this, and by Allah, I did not say that. It's in the newspaper, brother, you said it. No, I didn't. And he quoted this and this verse, and I swear by Allah, I did not quote that verse. I didn't even come close to that topic. It's not always the case, but yes, sometimes it's the case. So in this situation, someone might come to me and said, you said this and this, and I say, I'm sorry, I didn't. So, Hujurat, where did we go now? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala endeared to you the faith and made it pleasing in your hearts, and has made hateful to you disbelief, defiance, and disobedience. Those are the rightly guided. If two factions among the believers should fight, make settlement between the two. The importance of keeping the peace, arbitration, mending relations between Muslims, right? To the end of, and the verses continue. The believers are but brothers. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. O you have believed, let not a people ridicule another. This is the ayah you quoted, brother. Right? O you have believed, avoid much negative assumption. The opposite of husn al-dhan, su' al-dhan. Avoid su' al-dhan. Avoid such bad estimation, negative assumptions. Do not spy or backbite. Would one of you like to eat the flesh of another? Nobody mentioned backbiting. This is all in Hujurat, right? It's all, subhanallah. One of the main objectives of this surah is the issue of akhlaq. Any questions or comments? Yes, brother.
Question. They have a famous sentence from Ibn Qayyim.
Aha.
said, الإيمان هو الخلق ومن زاد عليك في الخلق زاد عليك في الإيمان.
Not exactly like that, and I think the word he mentioned was deen rather than iman, but precisely a beautiful statement. So he was essentially saying that. He's saying that deen is khuluq, is manners, is character. If a person has more akhlaq than you, then they have more deen than you do, more religion, subhanallah. Absolutely. Something that a lot of people seem to be heedless about. So this is an argument for the one who wants to say the importance of akhlaq to a believer, right? What kind of arguments do you use to talk about the importance of belief despite having good character? That's a totally different domain, right? How would you argue for that? Someone tells you, brother, I don't pray, but my akhlaq is better than yours, so I have more deen than you, period. What do you tell them? Totally different domain. Now you're going to argue the opposite. Now you're going to argue the importance of iman despite having akhlaq. It's something good to think about.
Now let's say that those who have the iman. The main question is why those who have the iman is having that?
That's why I put those 3 reasons in the very beginning of the talk. Why do they have? Clearly there's a disconnect. Why? It's probably, okay, well, that's probably a more difficult question. And for that, you probably need studies.
Because as we know, Allah said, if He loves the servant, He'll make the servant understand what the deen is all about.
Right. So it means, I think this is clear proof, that our understanding of the deen is maybe not completely
small
is, I mean, let's put it this way. Clearly, maybe recently, people have started emphasizing and putting more emphasis on that which is apparent. My reasoning for that is a general weakening and dilution of the deen. So, with time, people are becoming less and less religious. People are becoming more distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People's understanding is becoming somewhat superficial. So what ends up happening? I start implementing the easy part. What seems to be the easy part. I grow a beard, okay? I try to look Islamic, right? Sheikhly. But that which is here is more difficult. So, people start implementing the outwardly rather than the inwardly. This seems to be part of the answer. And I also believe a problem with the understanding as well, whereby we have overemphasized some aspects that have to do with appearance. And we didn't concentrate as much as on the heart. Whether that refers to piety, relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to the akhlaq as well. Just like you might find a brother who looks like a sheikh, maybe with a long beard, mashallah, they pray 5 times in the masjid, but they cheat. Sisters wearing the hijab, does the hijab, or the niqab for that matter, does that guarantee her a place in paradise? She has the hijab, mashallah, very God-fearing in terms of her appearance and so on. But when you look at her tongue is like a sword, okay? When she speaks, nobody is left standing. She destroys them. Where's the akhlaq? I claim some of our sisters, may Allah guide us all, and some of the brothers for that matter, some of the sisters, their Islam is in the niqab. Their Islam, all their Islam is right there in the niqab. All you do is pull it off, there's no more Islam. It's the case. Just like for some of the brothers, their Islam is in the beard. You shave the beard, no more Islam, that's all. What's going on? Where's the deen? This is where we talk about the importance of akhlaq. This is not to say, don't wear the hijab, don't have a beard. No. Yes, a Muslim has a certain appearance. This is the sunnah of the Prophet. This is his way. But when you only focus on that and you neglect everything else, this is the problem. And they are not mutually exclusive, and this is part of the problem. Trying to form the perception and explain it as if it's either this or this. And this is the way some idiots will come and present it to you. Would you rather that I, wear hijab and so on, or I have good akhlaq? Subhanallah, is it either or? Either this or that? No, why can't they exist together? They're supposed to, right? Anything else? Barakallah feekum, jazakumullahu khairan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from us all, to increase us in knowledge and piety and akhlaq. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.